What would you do if pretending to be the friend of a wealthy girl could save your family's life? One visit, one harmless lie. Just show up at the party, smile politely, and leave before anyone suspects a thing. But when he walks into the room confident, kind, and completely unaware, she never expects how quickly everything will change. And she definitely doesn't expect what happens next. In front of his friends, in front of his family, he gets down on one knee and proposes. Now she's trapped in a lie that's spun out of control and falling for a man who believes she's someone else entirely. This is a story of love born from deception, the risk of pretending, and a truth powerful enough to either break everything or bind two hearts forever. Before we dive into the story, comment below where you're watching from. Enjoy the story, everyone. The plan was simple. Show up, smile, and disappear before anyone asked questions. Nora adjusted the collar of her borrowed dress for the third time and glanced around the glittering room. Chandeliers sparkled above her. Waiters in starched white jackets moved like clockwork, and everywhere she looked, laughter spilled from glossy lips and champagne flutes. She didn't belong here, but she needed to pretend she did just for tonight. Relax, Jenna had whispered in the car earlier, reapplying her lipstick in the visor mirror. My brother barely notices anyone. You'll just blend in. Stand near me, laugh occasionally. That's it. Nora had nodded. She didn't like lying, but Jenna had been so insistent. My dad won't even show up. He hates parties. Just pretend to be me if anyone asks. No one knows my face here anyway. And so Nora had stepped into the lion's den dressed as the lion's daughter's friend. Technically, that wasn't even a lie. They were friends. Kind of. Jenna was one of those girls you never quite knew how to define, the type that found you when she needed something and vanished when you needed her. But she'd offered Nora $1,000 to attend this engagement party in her place. One night of pretending, and she could finally cover the last of her mother's medical bills. One night, that's all. Nora moved closer to the wall, careful not to draw attention. Her heels, a half size too big, clicked uncertainly against the polished marble. She took a breath, tried to look amused, tried to look expensive, and then she saw him. Tall, dark hair, confident in the way only someone raised in wealth could be, but not arrogant. His smile was genuine, his laugh real, unforced. He wasn't surrounded by people, but the space seemed to shape itself around him. He was magnetic. Nora looked away quickly. That had to be the brother. The one Jenna said she couldn't face right now. He's too perfect, she'd scoffed. Too judgmental. If he finds out I dropped out of grad school and sold mom's bracelet, he'll never let it go. So Nora, out of desperation and misplaced loyalty, had agreed to fill in. Just tonight. Just long enough to fool a few distant relatives and smile at a few friends. But the brother, he was walking toward her. Panic scraped against her ribs. Hey, he said, stopping just a step away. I thought I'd met everyone here, but somehow I missed you. His voice was smooth, warm, curious. Nora smiled a little too wide. You didn't miss me. I'm just background noise. He laughed, tilting his head. Hardly. I'm Jenna's friend, she said quickly. Nora. She bit her tongue. She wasn't supposed to say that. She was supposed to be Jenna. But she couldn't. Something about lying directly to this man felt worse than the rest. Ah, he said, studying her. Jenna's friend. There was a beat? I'm Owen. Her brother. So this was Owen Carter, the heir to Carter and Blake Investments, the man whose net worth had its own Wikipedia page. And she just lied to him. Badly. Nice to meet you, she said, clutching her clutch like it might anchor her to the floor. Owen's gaze softened. You okay? Yeah, just overwhelmed. It's a beautiful party. He nodded. I told her it was too much. But my parents like making an impression. He made air quotes, then grinned. You want some air? She hesitated. But something about him made it hard to say no. They slipped out onto the balcony. The city lights stretched below them like constellations. Nora leaned against the railing and breathed deeply. Better? he asked. Much. They stood in companionable silence for a moment, the noise of the party muffled by thick glass doors. I'm glad you're here, Owen said suddenly. She turned, startled. Sorry. I've seen so many people tonight who don't mean it. But you seem real. Nora's heart twisted. That's funny. I'm probably the most fake person here. He smiled, not understanding the weight of her words. Still, it's nice. And then the doors opened behind them. A woman in a sequined gown stepped out, clutching a mic. Ladies and gentlemen, can I have your attention? Owen groaned. Oh no, the speeches. She grabbed his arm instinctively. Let's hide. But before they could move, the woman called out, Owen Carter, get back in here. He winked at Nora. Duty calls. They stepped back into the ballroom, and Nora's stomach dropped as the crowd parted, eyes turning toward them. And here he is, the woman trilled. Now, I think it's time for a moment we've all been waiting for. Nora froze. What was happening? The woman gestured toward her. And who's this lovely young woman? Don't be shy, dear. Owen turned to her as if really seeing her for the first time. And then he knelt. The room gasped. Nora's breath vanished. He pulled a velvet box from his jacket. I know this is sudden, he said, loud enough for the whole room. But sometimes you just know. I didn't plan this. I didn't expect this. But I don't want to waste another minute. Her eyes widened in horror. Nora, he said, will you marry me? Laughter rippled in the background. Whispers. Phones raised to capture the moment. He thought it was a joke. Or maybe a bold gesture. Maybe he thought she was someone else. Or maybe, worst of all, he meant it. She didn't know what was worse. The fact that he asked, or the part of her that almost said yes. She smiled, her lips trembling. And the lie, like a fuse already lit, began to burn toward the explosion she couldn't stop. Applause exploded around her. Glasses clinked. Cameras flashed. Nora smiled as if her world weren't crumbling beneath her. Owen stood and slipped the ring onto her finger. A beautiful, sparkling lie. Her heart raced so loudly she could barely hear the wave of congratulations crashing toward them. Well done, darling, someone called. What a surprise. A bold move, Owen. Nora tried to keep her face steady. Her cheeks ached from the smile she couldn't drop. And then, mercifully, the crowd shifted. Another toast. Another distraction. Owen leaned close, his voice low near her ear. Are you okay? She nodded, throat dry. Did you mean to do that? His brow furrowed. Not like that. But yeah, I guess I did. She stared at him. You don't even know me. I know enough, he said simply. I know that you're the first person who hasn't tried to impress me tonight. And I know that something about you feels. Right? Nora blinked fast. This wasn't happening. This couldn't be happening. She needed to get out. But she couldn't just run. Not in front of dozens of strangers who thought they'd witnessed a real love story unfold. So she clung to the lie a little longer. Only until morning, she told herself. Just long enough to fix this quietly, to disappear before it got worse. Owen led her through the crowd with gentle confidence. People offered hugs, cheers, good-natured teasing. She smiled. She nodded. She laughed at jokes she didn't hear. And when the night ended, he kissed her cheeks softly and whispered, I'll call you tomorrow, fiancé. She smiled again, numb. Only when she stepped into the elevator did her body slump forward, her hands shaking as the doors closed. The ride down was silent, cold. She stared at the ring, Too perfect, too expensive, glittering like guilt on her hand. Outside, the air was sharp and clean. Her lungs burned as she exhaled the night. She didn't call Jenna. She didn't even know what she would say. Instead, she walked home in those two big heels, the city blurring around her, the sound of Owen's voice looping in her head. You feel real. The next morning, she woke to her phone buzzing. Unknown number. She didn't answer. It rang again. Then came the text. Can I see you? She stared at it. Her thumb hovered. She could block him, vanish, undo everything. But she didn't. Instead, she typed back. Sure. 1 hour. Cafe on 12th and Maple. He arrived early. She spotted him through the window before he walked in, navy sweater, jeans, no entourage. Just a man with kind eyes and no idea what he'd stepped into. He saw her, smiled, and took the seat across from her like they'd done it 1,000 times before. I didn't sleep much, he said. Me neither. I was worried I'd scared you off. You did, she said, then added gently, a little. He nodded, hands folded on the table. I get that. There was a long pause. Nora reached up, pulled the ring from her finger, and set it between them. He looked down at it, said nothing. Then finally, can I ask, what's really going on? She stared at him, at this man who had smiled at her across a ballroom, who had kneeled in front of her like something out of a movie, who was still here even now waiting for the truth. And for a second, just one, she wanted to tell him everything. But her mother's voice echoed in her mind. One mistake and we lose the insurance. So she said the safest version of the truth. I shouldn't have been at that party. He frowned. Why? I was covering for Jenna. He blinked. Covering? She asked me to go in her place. Just show face, pretend to be someone I wasn't. She said no one would notice. He leaned back, silent. She offered me money, Nora added quietly. My mom's sick. The bills are a. You were never supposed to be there. No. And I proposed to you. She nodded. He exhaled, slow and heavy. The silence stretched. Then, are you really her friend? Nora hesitated. We met in college. We stayed in touch. He didn't say anything. I didn't mean for this to happen, she said. I was supposed to be invisible. Then you showed up in a. You didn't lie about your name. No. You could've. I couldn't. He looked at her for a long time. Then he reached out, pushed the ring gently back across the table toward her. Let's try again. She stared at him. You be you. I'll be me. And if the world thinks we're engaged, he shrugged. Let them. Owen A. I don't want perfect, he said. I want honest. And you tried to disappear, which is the opposite of what people usually do when they meet me. Her throat tightened. Give me 1 week, he said. No pretending. Just us. If it's terrible, we'll fake a breakup and be done. If it's not. He didn't finish the sentence. She stared down at the ring. Not as a lie, but as a question. And somehow the idea of 1 honest week felt more terrifying than all the pretending. 1 week, she whispered. He smiled. 1 week. They stood. And as they walked out of the cafe together, Nora felt something shift. Not in the city, not in the air, but inside herself. Because for the first time in a long time, she wanted something she knew she couldn't afford to want. And his name was Owen Carter. If you're still here, you're amazing. Hit like if you love true stories, it helps us keep going. The first day was awkward. Not because Owen made it that way, he was warm, curious, thoughtful, but because Nora couldn't quite let herself breathe. She met him at a quiet brunch place in Capitol Hill where sunlight spilled through dusty windows and everything smelled like cinnamon. He wore a denim jacket over a t-shirt and smiled when he saw her, as if nothing about their strange beginning had left a scar. They talked about safe things, music, coffee, how she hated bananas, and she learned he collected vintage watches for reasons even he couldn't explain. She told him about her favorite books, the dog she lost as a child, the way her mother used to hum when she chopped onions. He asked questions like he genuinely wanted to know. She answered like each word was a risk. By the second day, something had shifted. They walked through Pike Place Market, her hand brushing his occasionally when the crowd pushed too close. They didn't talk about the ring, or the proposal, or what it all meant. Instead, they sampled honey sticks, laughed at a toddler chasing pigeons, and stood too long at a flower stand without buying anything. He bought her a lavender cupcake she didn't ask for. She bought him a keychain shaped like a tiny waffle. It made no sense. It felt like the beginning of something. They were both quiet on the ride back to his car. "Why me?" she asked as the engine started. He glanced at her. "What do you mean? You could have anyone. Someone who actually belongs in your world." He didn't answer right away. Then softly, "Because you don't try to." That night, she dreamed about her mother, not the sick version, but the one who used to twirl while cleaning, singing off-key to Mariah Carey. Nora woke up with tears on her pillow. By the fourth day, Owen invited her to dinner. "Not fancy," he said. "I'm not great in the kitchen, but I can follow a recipe." He opened the door wearing an apron that said Grill Sergeant and handed her a glass of wine the second she stepped inside. His place was everything she expected: sleek, elegant, curated, and yet something about it felt lived in. Like he didn't mind if things weren't perfect all the time. She sat at the counter while he tried not to burn the chicken. He talked about work, the pressure, the expectations, the strange weight of being born with too many doors already open. She listened, surprised by how lonely wealth sounded. She talked about jobs she'd worked: waitressing, data entry, one miserable stint as a dog walker that ended with a sprained ankle and an ungrateful poodle. He laughed until his shoulders shook. Dinner wasn't great. The chicken was dry. The rice stuck together. But she didn't care. They ate on the couch, barefoot, knees touching, plates balanced on their laps. She told him a joke. He countered with a worse one. She snorted wine through her nose and blamed him entirely. He didn't stop smiling. Later, they played cards on the floor and argued about the rules to rummy until she leaned too close and forgot what she'd been saying. He kissed her then. Not as a game. Not as a joke. Just quiet. Careful. Intentional. She kissed him back. And in that moment, she forgot the lie. She forgot Jenna. The borrowed dress. The fake name on the guest list. She forgot that all of this had started with money and desperation. All she remembered was his mouth on hers, his hands warm at her waist, and the sound of her own heart saying yes, yes, yes. But reality has a habit of creeping in. On the sixth day, her phone rang during breakfast. She recognized the number. The hospital. She stepped onto the balcony to take it, Owen still inside, humming as he washed the dishes from the eggs he'd overcooked. "Miss Halden," the voice on the line said. "This is Nurse Lacey. We need to discuss your mother's next round of treatment." Nora's stomach dropped. She listened, nodded, asked the right questions. And when the nurse said they needed payment by the end of the month to continue, Nora closed her eyes and said, "I understand." When she came back inside, Owen was leaning against the counter watching her. "Everything okay?" She nodded too fast. "Yeah. Just life stuff." He didn't push, but the air between them changed. By the seventh day, the weight of it all was too much. They were sitting on a park bench, a warm breeze tugging at her hair, when he said, "So, what happens now?" She didn't answer. "I meant it, you know," he added. "The proposal." She turned to him slowly. "I know that sounds crazy, but I haven't felt this, grounded in years. And when I look at you, I don't feel like I'm pretending to be someone I'm not." She blinked hard. "I wasn't supposed to matter to you. But you do." She looked down. Her hands twisted in her lap. "Owen, I can't give you what you want." He touched her hand. "Try me. I'm not Jenna's friend. Not really. She barely knows I exist. She used me. I let her. I needed the money." He was quiet. She kept going. "And now I've lied to you. I let you believe something that wasn't real. And I liked it too much to stop." His jaw tensed. His eyes didn't leave hers. "You think I care about how we met," he said. "I think you should. Then let me be clear, I don't care if you showed up in a costume and danced through the lobby. I care that when I talk to you, I hear truth. Even when you're scared. Especially then. She felt tears rise and didn't try to stop them. I'm just trying to survive, Owen. I know. He took her face in his hands. So am I. She closed her eyes and kissed him like it was the last thing holding her to the earth. Nora didn't expect to see Jenna again. Not outside the hospital. Not leaning against the brick wall in oversized sunglasses and a designer coat, looking like regret and recklessness in equal measure. Nora froze halfway down the sidewalk. Jenna smirked. Hey, stranger. She hadn't changed. Same casual superiority, same perfectly curated indifference. But something in her eyes looked cracked. Frayed. Nora crossed her arms. What are you doing here? I heard about the engagement, Jenna said, pulling a vape from her pocket. Imagine my surprise. Nora didn't reply. I mean, Jenna continued, blowing smoke toward the parking lot. One night of pretending? That was the deal? But you got cozy, didn't you? Stayed a little longer than planned. Nora's chest tightened. You sold me a lie and paid me to live it. Don't act surprised I got hurt. Oh, sweetie. Jenna stepped closer. You think you're the only one who got hurt? What do you want? Jenna held up her phone. On the screen, a photo. Nora and Owen. Kissing. Smiling. Intimate. Nora's stomach turned. You were following me? Not me. But your news now, in case you missed it. Owen Carter's mystery fiancé? Internet's going wild. So I figured I'd let his world know the truth. Why? Because I don't like being erased. Her voice sharpened. You stepped into my life like it was yours to borrow. But that family? That spotlight? That ring? It was never meant for you. Nora swallowed hard. You didn't even want it. I didn't. Until you did. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Jenna slid the phone back into her coat. But hey, you want to keep playing pretend? Fine. Just know it only takes one email to ruin your happy ending. And with that, she turned and walked away. That night, Nora couldn't sleep. Owen had fallen asleep on the couch beside her, one hand tangled in her hair. The television hummed quietly. But her mind wouldn't stop racing. She hadn't told him about Jenna. She hadn't told him about the photo. About the threat. About how fragile this happiness really was. At 3 a.m., she stood by the window, staring at the skyline, wondering how long she had before everything collapsed. The next morning, it began. Owen's assistant called during breakfast. There's something you should see, she said. An anonymous tip, photos, timeline, a suspicious connection between Nora Halden and Jenna Carter. Owen read the document in silence, his mouth a flat line. When he looked up, Nora saw it in his face, not anger. Not betrayal. Just wait. She stood across the room, hands clenched. I was going to tell you. When? Soon. He nodded slowly. I'm sorry, she whispered. I know. Silence stretched between them like glass. Finally, he said, we'll handle it. She blinked. What? I'm not throwing this away over a tabloid story. Or Jenna. Or bad timing. But I trust you. She stared at him. Why? He stepped closer. Because the truth never scared me. Lies do. But you've already told me yours. That makes you the most honest person I know. He reached for her hand. But her body stayed still. Because deep down, a voice whispered that maybe love wasn't enough. Maybe truth wasn't either. Maybe she was always meant to be the girl who left before the lights came back on. The story hit the press 2 days later. Headlines. Speculation. Grainy photos of their kiss on the cafe sidewalk. Carter are engaged to imposter? Nora stayed inside. Turned off her phone. Stared at the ring on her finger like it was a weight she didn't know how to carry anymore. Owen tried to keep her close. Told her jokes. Made her pancakes. Held her in the quiet. But she was drifting. She didn't mean to leave. She just needed air. Time. Space. So one evening, while he was on a call, she slipped out the door. Walked to the bus stop in an old hoodie and sneakers. She didn't take anything. Just her purse. A journal. And the fading echo of the life she'd almost had. The city blurred around her again, this time not with champagne and chandeliers, but with headlights and rain. She ended up at her mother's bedside. The machines beeped gently. Her mother stirred, eyes fluttering open. "Hi," Nora whispered. Her mother smiled. "You look tired." Nora sat down, took her hand. "I messed up." "You always say that." "This time I mean it." Her mother squeezed her fingers. "Did you lie?" "Yes." "Did you hurt anyone?" "I think I did." "On purpose?" "No." Her mother's eyes softened. "Then maybe you didn't mess up. Maybe you just tried." Nora swallowed hard. "I fell in love." "Of course you did. It's complicated. Everything worth having is." They sat in silence, the kind that only years of love and loss can make comfortable. When Nora left, it was dark, but something inside her felt lighter. She went home, not to Owen's apartment, but to her own tiny studio with creaky floors and a faucet that never stopped dripping. She sat on the floor, opened her journal, wrote 4 words. "I'm coming back tomorrow." But tomorrow came and Owen didn't. She called, texted. No answer. Not that night. Not the one after. Finally, on the 3rd day, she opened her door and found a package on her doorstep. Inside, the ring. And a note. Only 6 words. "If you want it, I'm here." She stared at the ring for a long time. It lay in her palm like a quiet question, gleaming without arrogance. Just waiting. Outside, the world moved on. Buses groaned, horns honked, voices floated through thin walls. But inside Nora's apartment, everything was still. She read the note again. "If you want it, I'm here." Not "come back." Not "why did you leave?" Just 6 words handed to her like a key. She didn't sleep that night. Instead, she opened her old shoebox of things she never let herself look at: notes from college, her mother's recipe cards, a Polaroid of a smiling girl who once believed life would get easier. And then, quietly, she wrote something new. In the morning, she walked through the city without headphones, without a coat, without hesitation. The wind bit at her cheeks, but she didn't slow down. She stopped outside Owen's building and looked up. No windows lit. No movement. Still, she walked in. The doorman recognized her, gave a tight smile, said nothing. She took the elevator to the top floor. Her fingers hovered over the buzzer. She didn't press it. She knocked. A pause. Then the door opened. Owen looked like he hadn't slept. His hair was tousled. His eyes were rimmed in red. But when he saw her, something flickered, not relief, not anger. Hope. "Hi," she said. He didn't speak, just stepped aside. She walked in slowly, like she wasn't sure she was allowed. The apartment was quiet. The same bowl of oranges on the counter. The same blanket slung over the couch. But something had shifted. Him. "I got your note," she said softly. He nodded. "I wasn't ready," she continued. "To be known. To be believed. I kept waiting for you to realize I wasn't enough. I never thought that." "I know," she said. "But I did." He took a step forward. "Why did you leave?" "Because it felt too good to be real. And I've never trusted good things to last." Owen's voice cracked. "You should have trusted me." She closed her eyes. "I'm trying to learn how." He reached for her hand, slow, careful, like she was a dream he wasn't sure he was allowed to keep touching. She let him. "I don't care about the party," he said. "Or the headlines. Or Jenna. I care about the woman who kissed me in the kitchen when she thought no one else saw. I care about the girl who told me she hates bananas and still ate one because I offered." She laughed, breath hitching. "That was a terrible banana." He smiled. "I kept the peel." She choked. "You didn't." "I did." He stepped closer. "I keep things that matter." She swallowed. "I don't have much to offer. You already gave me what I needed." They stood in silence. Then Nora reached into her coat pocket, pulled out the ring, held it up between them. "I don't want a perfect life," she said. "I just want a true one." And somehow, that started the night I became someone else. He took the ring. slid it back onto her finger. "You were always you," he said. A beat. "And for the record, the proposal wasn't fake." She raised an eyebrow. "Really? I didn't have a ring then, or a plan, or a clue. But the second I saw you walk toward me in that crowded room, pretending to belong, I knew I wanted you in my life." Her voice trembled. "Even if I don't come from the same world, we'll build our own." He kissed her, not with urgency, not with apology, but with the quiet certainty of someone who had been waiting for this moment to feel like home. Later that night, they lay on the couch, legs tangled, her head on his chest. The TV played some old movie neither of them watched. She whispered, "What now?" "Now," he said, "we stop pretending." Weeks passed like chapters finally being written in the right order. The media story faded. Jenna tried once more to cause damage. A video, a rumor, a dig at Nora's past. It didn't stick, because Owen never flinched, and Nora no longer ran. She began working at a nonprofit downtown. Not glamorous, not high-paying, but real. She saw her mother every weekend. They cooked together again, talked like time hadn't fractured anything between them. And on a Sunday afternoon, as Owen made grilled cheese with too much butter and Nora danced barefoot in the kitchen to a terrible 90s playlist, he turned suddenly and said, "We should do it." "Do what?" "Actually get married." She blinked. "Are you serious?" "I want to be." She stared at him. This man who once saw her as someone else, and now saw her fully. "Then yes," she said. "But this time no surprises." He grinned. "Deal. Except one thing." He pulled a new ring box from his pocket. She gasped. "Owen, this one's ours." Inside, a simple gold band. No diamonds, no spotlight, just truth. He slipped it on her finger, over the same place the first one had rested. But this time it didn't feel like a question. Felt like an answer. They didn't post anything online. No announcements. No headlines. No staged photos. Just a note on their fridge, written in black marker. It started with a lie, but it ends with love. And beneath it, her handwriting. Not the end, just the beginning.